we're gonna do something before we ring the bell, just because we can, and I've got the microphone. So here we go.
We'd like everybody to sing along to this. The words are on the screen.
How much fun is that? And now, we'll ring the bell. So we should start. Welcome to the June 29th meeting of the Rotary Club of Louisville. This is Walt Kuno, president for the last time. Thank you. I'm heading out of here. Yes. Since it's our last meeting, I had free reign with the script writing, so just watch out. And I go off script early and often. But I did decide to sprinkle a little bit of Walt's words of wisdom throughout our meeting today. So here we go. So my first one's pray for a good harvest, but keep on hoeing. So I think that's appropriate. And also I just want to let you know that our former district governor, Otha Ray, is in the hospital at Louisville, and he's recovering well from a stroke. And so when we say our prayer today, let's keep Otha Ray and Nancy, our current district governor, in our prayers. And Dr. Swanee Jett's going to come lead us in our prayer. Welcome.
But this will be brief. Bow your heads with me. Heavenly Father, thank us for this day. In all thy ways, lead us along our path, Lord. Please open up our hearts so that we continue to give and help the people that are less fortunate in this world. Lord, continue to pray over the people that prepared our food and lead us on our way of life, Lord, so we have a journey of giving and helping. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And now to lead us in the pledge and the four-way test is Julie Schmidt, Senior Director of External Affairs at KET, a Paul Harris Fellow, and one of the best darn past credits we've ever had. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Walt.
Thank you.
Friends, I give greetings from the Pikeville Rotary Club. I was there with them yesterday, and their district governor was with us. And she just wants to extend a huge thank you to our district, who responded so generously in supporting the flood victims. The club raised over $330,000, and even more, they were able to go individually and meet with the flood victims and give them some cash, which was very important, but most of all, it gave them hope. So just thank you all for that. If you would, please join me in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the things we think, say, and do, the Rotary four-way test.
Is it true? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Everybody, please be seated. Right now is the time we usually introduce guests, but we've got so many of them today that we're not going to do that. I think we got some more, another Walt's worth of wisdom sprinkled in here. Opportunity is missed by most people because it's dressed up in overalls and it looks like work. So, there we go. Now, for those guests that are here, please, Craig Sherman is somewhere. Raise your hand, Craig. There he is, all the way in the back, right back there. Craig is going to do What is Rotary when the meeting's over. So if you're a guest, if you want to know that we sing this song every single week, anyway, then come to see Craig at the end of our meeting. Also, I get to introduce my family because I can. And this is my table here, and some of the folks had to pay to come. But I have my family here, my son Dan and his wife Allie. I got my friend Dave Hall and a friend Billy Bean. They were the only ones that would take me up on free dinner. But my sister Kathy, and then my dear wife Lynn. I do need to say one thing. So Lynn, am I by the microphone? Sorry. Lynn never says this, but she thinks it sometimes. I married you for better, for worse, but not for lunch. All right. So Rotary works right in there. And then my little Walt's words of wisdom right this second. Some people grumble that roses have thorns. I'm grateful that thorns have roses. And so my wife is a rose grower, and I've got my lapel pin on from her, and just thank you all. Thank you for being here. I'm honored, and thank you all for this. And at this time, I'd like to invite Gene West, one of the best darn past presidents we've ever had. Luke Schmidt, one of the best darn past presidents we've ever had. Denise Sears, maybe one of the best darn past presidents in the future we'll ever have. Come for our big check presentation.
Thank you, almost best darn past President Walt. Rotarians, we always like for you to know where your treasure is going. And as president of the fund, chair of the fund board, we like for you to know that when we distribute a grant, who it's going to, and give you some idea of what that grant is going for. This grant is for the West Louisville Housing Program, which we are so incredibly proud of. It is transformative. It's transforming lives, and Luke and Denise will give you an update on how far we've come with this program. So, the Rotary Fund, West Louisville Housing Program, 30,000.
When we started this a couple of years ago, our goal was to truly change lives. And we did the hard thing. There were a lot of easy solutions out there to advance homeownership in West Louisville. But there was one problem that we identified that nobody was. And it was going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of perseverance, but we did. I'm here to thank every one of you who participated. A couple of weeks ago, we were at Park Community Credit Union, our fiduciary partner on this, to receive an update. And they informed us that the very first home buyer had been approved. You know, Mrs. Smith had the dream of owning her own home for many years. But like many families in West Louisville, she really didn't have the credit. She didn't have a student loan. She didn't have a car loan. And yet, she worked full-time. She was paying her rent faithfully. But unfortunately, those were not criteria that traditional banks consider. Our program does. When the bank called her to tell her that she'd been approved to buy her first home, she burst into tears and had to hang up. She called back a few hours later to say, "Is this real?" And I have to tell you, and Luke is my witness, I was then crying in the conference room at Park Community Credit Union. Because this is what we were trying to do. That story embodies exactly what we were trying to do. Now there's a second home buyer who's out looking for her first home. You understand, it's not just those two lives. It's their families. It's their future generations. They were without hope. They had tried, but the door to gaining a mortgage was not open. We have opened it. For all of you who supported this, I hope you feel the joy that I felt. I mean, I got in the car, I was still crying, I called my sister. I was like, I gotta tell you this, I gotta tell you what we did. I told like 10 more people that day. 2 of them are now Rotarians. So I challenge all of you, that when you get in the car, pull that visor down, look in the mirror and say, I am a dream maker, I'm a life changer, I'm a community builder, and I can't wait to go out and tell more people about this. Thank you all so much.
Well, that's a tough one to follow. Oh, and here's our donor list up here too. So just so that you know, the folks in the room, what Rotary's done, and what Denise just filling in a little bit of the blanks, that Rotary committed to raising $5 million for this program, and we're halfway there of raising that kind of money. And when we do that, that's somewhere between 60 and 70 first-time homeowners. And this is how most of us in this room collect generational wealth. We're starting to build generational wealth with our neighbors in those 9 neighborhoods. It is incredible, and I can't thank Denise and Luke. We did this during the middle of COVID, and this is just an unbelievable thing. So once again, thank everybody that has to do with that. All right. Now then, back to you, President Walt. Oh, I didn't say that. I'm going to invite Delaney up to the microphone here for just a minute.
There's my phone I've been looking for.
All right, in case you haven't noticed, it's a little hard to run a program and be part of the program at the same time. So I'm going to do my best. So I'm Delaney Taylor, Executive Director of the club. And each year we present an award to someone who has done, just gone over and above during the year in different ways to make our club successful, to help me be successful, to help our officers and directors be successful. And we have such a person in the room with us today. During COVID, the Leadership Fellows program, our Leadership Fellows program went dormant, and a former leader helped revive it, took the initiative to revive it, and to serve as chair of that committee. Since 2001, when Baylor Landrum established and funded the program, 47 fellows have participated, with 30 program graduates and 22 who chose to continue membership in the club, serving in leadership positions including as board members, as well as committee chairs and vice chairs. More than 75 Rotarians have served the fellows as mentors, program leaders, and committee volunteers. Fellows attend Rotary meetings, schedule monthly Leadership Fellow meetings of their own with speakers, and work with different mentors throughout their 3 years. Those of you who were with us last week saw our Leadership Fellows for this year recognized. Terrific group, and they are engaged in our club because of this person. This person serves as chair of our Emerging Leaders program as well, working to ensure that our younger members feel welcome and stay engaged in our club. This person also happens to be chair of our Speakers Committee, one of the most critical and active committees responsible for all the great speakers who stand in this podium in front of you. And finally, this person is one of our more active board members, doing a tremendous amount of work in addition, and my go-to person whenever I need to vent, whenever I need some last-minute help, whenever I just want to have a friendly voice to uplift me. She even helped run the slides when I was on vacation, or not on vacation, but at the Rotary International Convention in Australia recently. In an organization with many phenomenal volunteers, Ashley Brower stands out as deserving of this.
Thank you all, it's an honor.
Jolene, I got your phone again. All good, all good. And just so y'all know what it's like being Walt, I just leaned in and asked Barbara, is our speaker here? She pointed right in front of her. No, I'm glad you're here, because I was going to have to bore everybody with a little bit more of my ad-libbing. So, without further ado now, before we get there though, I need to recognize our outgoing board. So the board of directors served so ably and with great dedication. Their perseverance and positive commitments helped us move forward throughout this year. These individuals served as officers and directors for the 2022-23 Rotary year, which ends tomorrow. Will you rise when I call out your name and be recognized all at the end? Okay, y'all gonna follow directions well. When I say recognize all at the end is what? I'm a school teacher. We'll see. All right. First of all, Barbara Sexton Smith. She will be our last vice president ever. She's worked herself out of a job again. So there's Barbara. Follows instructions well. And next is immediate past president Gene West. One of the best darn past presidents we've had. Yeah, you're going to hear that a lot. Okay, we're going to keep doing this. Oh, you don't want to hear me. I know that. Retiring from their 2-year terms on the board. Fred Cowan. I saw Fred. Fred's over here. And Tom Crimmins right beside Fred. And Neville Blakemore is on vacation. And Ashley Brower is Rotarian of the Year. And Cynthia Miles Brown could not be with us here today. I want to thank them, thank, and now it's appropriate for you to give them a round of applause. There are also so many other folks that I need to thank, and I'm sure I'm going to miss somebody, and if I do, just so sue me. Of course, there's Darlene and Tracy, our speakers committee. I mean, these meetings have been so full of energy because of our great speakers. Thank you again, Ashley, and your group. Sabre, our folks at Sabre, our folks at Joe's Homeroom. Y'all remember we've been moving around this year. Our servers here at the Women's Club, they're right around here in the black outfits. Committee chairs, those who help for our service, which is almost everybody. So if you didn't hear your name called out, get more active. I'm sorry. Rotarians, please join me in saluting everybody that makes Rotary happen. Thank you very much. And I get to do another Walt's Words of Wisdom. A bird doesn't sing because it has an answer. It sings because it has a song. Maya Angelou said that, and I just really love that. Now it's my indeed privilege and honor to introduce our speaker today. Congressman Morgan McGarvey is proud to represent the people of Kentucky's 3rd Congressional District in the United States House of Representatives. He is a lifelong Louisvillian who, before being elected to Congress, served for a decade in the Kentucky State Senate, including 4 years as the minority leader of the Senate Democratic Caucus. As state senator and minority leader, Morgan fought against conservative attacks on public education, organized labor, reproductive rights, and Kentucky's working families. He did so while building relationships with his colleagues in both parties to pass legislation that helps and protects Kentuckians every single day. Across 10 years in Frankfort, Morgan wrote and passed 18 bills into law. That's amazing. Thank you, Morgan, very much. Morgan wrote and passed those 18 bills, including passing the first insurance mandate in Kentucky history to make sure that low birth weight babies get the nutrients they need to survive. Laws that protect the victims of human trafficking and domestic violence, and a law that allowed Simmons College, Louisville's only HBCU, to lower tuition costs for its students and restart its teacher training program, putting more black teachers into the classrooms across Louisville and Kentucky. Thank you for doing that, Morgan. Morgan graduated from Manual High School. You know, we always ask, where'd you go to high school? Manual. Of course you did. He's in Louisville. He earned his BA in journalism from the University of Missouri at Columbia. He met his wife, Chris, there, and he got his JD from the University of Kentucky School of Law. Morgan, Chris, and their 3 children, Clara, Wilson, and Greta, live in the Highlands neighborhood. Please join me in welcoming Congressman.
Good afternoon. Thank you all for having me. I'm gonna try and be short and take as many questions as you guys have, or just interrupt me. I'm pretty informal about this whole thing. Ashley, congratulations on your award, and I will say also, that was a lesson in speech giving. It reminded me so much of Manual High School. Well, when I was at Manual, we had a whole bunch of valedictorians. And one of the women in my class, when it came time for her to give her valedictorian speech, she just simply got up there and she said, you know what? I can't tell you all a single thing you haven't already heard, but I worked really hard for this, so I'm going to stand here and let you look at me for a few minutes. That's what she did. Thank you. It is. I'll give you a brief update from Washington. Like I said, interrupt me anytime with questions. You know, I've been there 6 months as of next week. I got there for the first time in 150 years. It took us that long to elect a speaker. We have dealt with national catastrophes. We've dealt with leadership upheaval. We've dealt with tragedy here at home. To quote the Grateful Dead, in the first 6 months, what a long, strange trip it's been. And a whirlwind, a true whirlwind. I mean, people ask what it's like in Washington, and I tell them the truth. I'm never in my apartment, which I share with a roommate, past 6:30 in the morning. I'm never there before 10 o'clock at night. Things go. I've lost a pair of sunglasses. I've lost one of my water bottles. I've lost a Metro card. I lost a pair of shoes that I did get back. But I have not lost my optimism. And I think that's important because while there are problems with the place, we can talk about it. I see the promise of what government and business can partner together to do. I think you saw that come together recently. Our first big test in the 118th Congress was the debt ceiling bill. And I can promise you it's not what I would have written, and I'm sure if I had some of my conservative colleagues, even from here in Kentucky, they would promise you it's not what they would have written. Yet we all voted for it. Because we needed to save our country from default. We needed to continue to make the American economy and the American dollar strong. And so that's what we did. There are some problems with the place. I think you saw that on display last week. I won't shy away from those either. So Adam Schiff gets censured by one of the more extreme members of the majority party. And I say this, think about this, whether you're Democrat or Republican. I was totally against this. And the reason being, there have been 7 people censured in the last 50 years. And 25 people censured in the history of the body. It's a serious thing. To do it as an institution is a big deal. And all of a sudden, this went through without a finding of the ethics committee. There was no fact finding, there was no investigation. This was someone's belief that another member should be censured. That weakens an institution. And so we've got the positive, we've got the negative, and what's the takeaway for me? It matters. It matters who we send to elected office, and it matters what they do there. Because as we showed with the debt ceiling, there are big problems and we still can solve them. And we still have big problems to solve. We've got to come together and listen. To me, bipartisanship does not mean to agree. It means to listen. To listen to each other, to hear what the problems are, to hear what the solutions are, to debate those solutions, and come out with the best product that moves our city, our state, and our country forward. Just today in the news is the Supreme Court's decision on affirmative action. We have to tackle not only race relations, systemic racism in this country, we now have to add affirmative action to that list to make sure that all of our kids, all of them, have access to high quality education. We have to tackle the problem of guns. And unfortunately, Louisville now has an augmented voice in that process. You all know, the Monday after Easter, we added our name to the list of cities that suffered a mass shooting. Where 5 people were tragically killed, 2 of whom were my friends, 8 others injured. Yes, we've got to talk about mental health. The person who did that shooting was seeing a psychiatrist. We've got to talk about mental health. But he was still able to go into a store and buy an assault rifle and ammunition and walk out in under 40 minutes. Which means we also have to talk about guns. And there are common sense proposals. Universal background checks, banning assault rifles, making sure people are safely storing their weapons. And we're trying to do this the right way. I joined the Gun Violence Prevention Task Force. And one of the things we're doing is we have a spreadsheet, we have people's names on it. We're not doing it in front of the media, we're not doing it on social media. We are going and talking to other legislators and saying, where can you meet me on this? Because we've got to keep our communities safe. We've got to make people feel safe going to work, going shopping, going to the movies. And I refuse to accept the notion that there's nothing we can do when we're doing nothing. We have to continue to look and make sure that our country is moving forward economically. Making sure that manufacturing is happening right here. We got a good start on it with the Inflation Reduction Act, with the Chips and Science Act. But we've got to make sure that those jobs continue to be built here in America. Again, something we can all agree on. So instead of finger pointing, let's get together and figure out how we make it happen. Just talked about guns and crime. You know, another solution for that? Good paying jobs. We're going to talk about crime, let's talk about the root causes. Let's make sure that people have access to affordable housing. People have access to good paying jobs. Healthcare. Right? These things all go together. And while we've made some good progress, there is so much work to be done. That's the work that I'm excited about. That's what makes me excited to continue to go to Washington on that Monday morning flight and then come home. Because I see the promise of the place. And I think truly, when we continue to send good people to Washington who are willing to listen and to do that work, we can get so much done. So appreciate you guys having me here today. I can tell you that Washington would benefit from the four-way test if we ask ourselves that. If we ask ourselves that before every vote, we'd probably take fewer votes. But we'd be a lot better off. And I truly am happy to answer any questions you guys have. I'm also a legislator, a lawyer, and a politician, so if you guys just want me to talk, I can. But I'm happy to take any questions you guys have.
Thank you, Morgan. So Ashley's going to be asking the questions from the Speakers Committee. She's got the microphone. She'll be asking the questions. If she's ready, we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah, we've got members across the room that have questions. Alice, do you want to?
Oh, okay, great.
Unfortunately, we unplugged the microphone and now we can't figure out where to go.
I'll sing it out.
You know who repeat the question.
Yeah, and this is not dissimilar from Congress, by the way. So.
Thank you for being here today, Congressman McGarvey. With climate change, people talk about it as an existential threat, but actually our air quality is so poor, it's not existential, it's today, it's happening to us right now. With a divided Congress, what can we do to address this issue and make our world safer for the future?
Thank you so much. She asked about climate change. It is an existential threat right now. It's an immediate threat. This morning, one of the stops I made before coming here was to the YMCA at 10th and Chestnut, where today they are taking care of 97 kids in our community, making sure that they have a safe place to go when their parents go to work. 97 kids, ages 5 to 13. Yesterday they couldn't let those kids play outside because of the air quality. Now, who in this room wants to volunteer to take care of 97 kids ages 5 to 13 who can't get outside to play? Right? It's that big a deal. That may seem small, but it's that big a deal. I told you I'm optimistic, so I'm going to stay optimistic. Last year we did pass the biggest climate change bill in our country's history. Now not only do we have to implement it, we have to improve upon it. I really think that having clean energy is not only going to create good paying jobs in this country, is not only going to make our world a better place to live in and to leave for our children. It's also going to make us energy independent, which is not something we talk about enough. It is a win-win-win, in my opinion. And it's something that we're going to need help with. And that is where the government comes in. Because when you look at our power grid right now in this country, as Texas, I heard this morning on NPR that Texas is the hottest place in the world today. So we've got kids in Louisville can't play outside, we've got places in the United States that are the hottest place in the world today. That's going to put incredible strain on our power grid, our current existing power grid. And so I met with the rural co-ops. The co-ops, those are electric utilities that are owned by their customers. They're going to need solutions to transition to that clean energy, where we can produce more energy, we can produce it more effectively, we can do it here at home, right? But they're going to need some help, because they can't just get rid of the assets they have now, and their consumers can't bear that cost. So there's a couple of bills out there I'm supportive of. One is a debt forgiveness bill to especially the rural electric co-ops, where they transition away from their fossil fuel assets right now, that we would forgive the debt on those as they build the new ones. And I think it's continuing to invest and build that bridge to the green energy economy. I think there's some really good ways we can do it. And of course, we have to. We can't wait, is the bottom line. So I appreciate that question.
Thank you very much.
Hey, the mic's working.
Yes, got it back working. Our nation's report card just has shown recently that our kids are way behind. Part of that's COVID. There are a whole host of other issues. So how do we address this? How do we catch our kids up? And how do we make them competitive on a global level?
Thank you so much. I think it's hard to say what's the most important issue facing us right now. It's like asking which is my favorite child. I mean, I have one, but I'm not going to tell you. You guys do too. Don't look at me like that. But that is certainly one of the most important issues facing us right now, and something I experienced firsthand. We have 3 kids under 12 right now in our house. We were teaching. All of a sudden, the pandemic started in March of 2020. It was the first year we'd split the twins up in school, and so they were in separate second grade classes, which meant we were teaching second grade twice during the pandemic. They went back to the same class, by the way, for 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. But watched the problems that arose for our kids, who have a lot of advantages. Our kids are still behind from COVID. We have to continue to invest in making sure we have the best public education system in the world. Right? We have to invest in our kids. We have to invest in our future. You can call it an expenditure, but it is an investment. As we move particularly into a knowledge-based economy, we have to have those kids ready. And as we continue to see workforce development and the need for skilled labor, we have to invest in that. And it's making sure our kids know there are several ways to be successful. That it's not just a 4-year degree that means success, that you can be very successful. I'll tell you, anybody here not call a plumber when something goes really wrong? Right? Or an electrician? But there's really and truly ways that we have to do this, and we have to make sure our kids are ready for whatever they need and for what we need collectively. I think that's one where I'll always be a state legislator at heart. Spent a long time in the state Senate, where I think that the states and the federal government really have to partner. We are better in that role as a funding mechanism, just being totally honest. And making sure that there are some accountability and national standards while allowing the states to have a little more autonomy and creativity, particularly with what they need in those areas. But it is just right up there at the top, because as much as I believe in our kids, as much as I believe in our future, we can't take it for granted. And there are other countries and other places in the world who want to pass us by. And we need to make sure that our education system is an envy of the world, right? Not that we're looking to other places as the benchmark for us.
Hey, Congressman, how you doing?
Hey.
Kurt. This question's easy to ask, but maybe difficult to solve or answer, and I love your perspective because you've had the years in Frankfurt and now 6 months in DC. How do we resolve building unity in this country and community? We seem so divided. I know we all talk about it, but we don't seem to solve it. We're all human. We have differences of opinion, but it seems like when it comes time to, when the rubber meets the road, we don't often resolve things because of that.
I think that's it. First of all, I almost heard the question over your shirt. And,
We have my vote.
Okay, quick story before I answer this question. I love Louisville because everybody knows everybody. And so some of my staff in DC aren't from Louisville. And I said, after a couple of months, I said, do you guys see it? Like, we really do, we really do know everybody. And they said, oh yeah. And the members we worked for before we came here, someone would call in and say they knew the congressman, and they were lying. We've learned that when somebody calls here, no, they went to high school with you, they know your sister, and they know your parents, they work with you. Like, yeah, it's a small, big city. I think you're right, and I think we have to get back to some of that. I'm gonna give you a little bit of what I see as the problem, and then a little bit of a wonky answer, and you guys just wave your hands if I'm boring you. I'm serious about that. We are seeing really right now in Washington, particularly in the House, we are seeing the extremist voices, which I believe are still the few, have outsized influence over the legislation that comes to the floor, over what we're able to pass, over whether we're able to even vote. But they have more influence than they've ever had. Ever. And even though they're a minority, you don't see a majority within their own party standing up to them. And why is that? And this gets to the answer a little bit. I think one of the big problems we're seeing in this country right now comes from partisan redistricting. That may not be the answer you expected to hear, but what you're seeing through partisan redistricting is you are seeing congressional districts that are drawn on both sides that can only be won by one party. I say only, right? Okay, anything can happen. I'm a lawyer, so those words like only and ever freak me out. But primarily, can only be won by one party. So when that happens, the election that matters is the primary. Now, what I'm saying is factual. It could change, but today this is the reality. Thank you very much. This is the reality. Fewer people vote in primaries. The people who vote in primaries on both sides tend to be more towards the ideological extreme end of their party. So if you're in a district that can only be won by one party, and the only election you're really worried about is the primary election, guess what positions you're going to take? The ones that appeal to those fewer voters who are more on the ideological extremes. And if that continues to happen, then you're going to have some people who I think are good and sensible people, with whom, by the way, I have passionate disagreements about how to run this country, but who cannot stand up and do even what they think is the right thing. I'll give you an example. I told you about the Gun Violence Prevention Task Force that I'm a member of. I've had some really great conversations on common sense gun reform with members of the Republican Party. And they'll say, where can you meet? We'll talk about it. We'll talk about things like red flag laws. We'll talk about mental health. We'll talk about background checks. Things that really shouldn't be all that controversial. And every time they end by saying, but you know I can't be for this if the NRA opposes it. Because they're going to lose their primary, which is the only election they're worried about. So a little bit of a deep dive into what I see as part of the problem, but I really see that as a problem. People in Frankfurt, I say this all the time, I've got Joni Jenkins with me here, who was the House Minority Leader in the State House for 28 years, and I let her retire for literally 5 years. I let her retire for 5 days before literally begging her to come work in my office here in the district. But I know Joni's here. We got along in Frankfurt with Democrats and Republicans, much better than people think. My early time in Washington, I see that happening too. I've been going to the House gym in the mornings to get to know people. Everybody's really friendly. I played on the Congressional baseball team to get to know people, thanks to Bellarmine and Jess for the uniform. People are really friendly, and then what happens is the legislation comes out. Some of it is pushed by the more extreme members, and then the people people who might disagree with, but want our government ultimately to function, have a hard time standing up, and I think it comes from that redistricting.
I have a question.
Yeah.
This came in via email. Any revelations, surprises in your first year regarding bipartisanship?
Yeah, so I just hit on that a little bit. I do think people get along better, and I think there's going to be fights. And there's going to be fights over big substantive things, and then there's going to be fights over some political things too, what I call messaging bills. That's okay. It's a little bit like tackle football. People don't get so mad when they get tackled if it's a fair hit. Right? You get up and go to the next one. That works. I think people get along far better than that. And again, in the first big test of this Congress, we passed. And we passed with 149 Republican votes and 164 Democratic votes, roughly. So in a closely held Congress, that's that's a pretty good bipartisan piece of work on honestly the most substantial bill we've had up this year. Yeah.
I'm back here. Thanks for being here. On.
There's a dead spot back there.
Keith, she said you're a dead spot. I'm
Oh, well, glad you last day.
I'm kidding. Jokes are fine today, I felt good about that. I guess we always have questions about what you're doing, what's going on in Congress, in the Senate, all these things, what government's doing. What, if you look around the room, or just what you're dealing with people every day, what can we do to make things better in our own way?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that, especially in this room, where I see so many friends, I see so many leaders in our business community, our legal community, our medical community, our spiritual community, our nonprofit community are in this room here today. Raise your voice. Use it. Who's my boss? Unless you've been convicted of a felony, don't raise your hand. Every single person here. And I'm trying to restore those rights as well. So, you might be my boss soon enough. You're my boss, right? You have 2 United States senators. You're bosses of them too. You have legislators, a governor, a mayor. What I tell people all the time, you asked about surprises, I thought you were going to go in a different direction. One of my big surprises is how many people assume we know something. Just because you see it in your everyday life, and that you go to work and everybody talks about it and everybody knows it, doesn't mean I know what it is, or doesn't mean someone in my office knows what it is. Raise your voice, talk about those problems, and hold us to account. Make sure that if you have something that you want to bring here and raise awareness to, that you do it and hold us to account. Call the office, email the office, ask for a meeting, ask for a Zoom. I know you're busy people, but I'm talking about stuff that's maybe in the 5 to 15 minute range once or twice a year. And I think that is a huge thing you can do. Here's another thing. I am assuming, you're going to have to share your hands, but I'm assuming everybody in here has voted at some point in their life. If you haven't, feel bad. But I assume, so I'm going to call everybody here a voter. Get somebody else to go vote. One of the things that I see right now, we've talked about education, we've talked about climate change, we've talked a little bit about healthcare and workforce development. Yeah, that impacts the people in this room. But let's be honest, the biggest impact of those things are our people who aren't in this room. One of the problems we're seeing right now is having young people go to vote. Find someone in your family, or that you work with, or that you're close to, and make sure they vote. Answer their questions about issues. Talk to them about things. But take another person with you to vote. Not physically with you, but take another person with you to vote. And I'll admit it, when I was 18 years old, and I went off to college for the first time to vote in the first election I was eligible to vote in, my parents bugged the absolute out of me to make sure I filled out an absentee ballot. But that showed me how important it was. So you guys can call your representatives and then get more bosses into the office who are also telling us what to do. Yeah, great question.
Here's our last question for Congressman. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Walt, and thank you, Congressman. We appreciate you being here. My question is about immigration, and this city is known for being a haven for refugees. This club is going to be supporting 4 families this coming year who will be coming in. And one of the problems that I learned about in this is that people that are coming from certain countries on an emergency basis, such as Haiti or Cuba or other parts of the world, they get here, but until they have a hearing, they can't get a work permit, so they can't go to work. and that might be months and months. And I wonder if there are things like that that you envision being fixed in our immigration laws in this Congress.
Thank you, and yes. So the short answer is yes, I do. And the reason being, immigration reform in this country is a failing of Congress. It is not a failing of the Democrats, it is not a failing of the Republicans, it is a failing of Congress for many decades. That we have not passed meaningful, comprehensive immigration reform that not only allows common sense reforms like the work permits, but also brings 11 million people out of the shadows who are in this country already. But the reason I think this can happen is the coalition you're seeing built on immigration right now. Not only are you seeing the humanitarian efforts, you're seeing people all of a sudden from the Chamber of Commerce to the ACLU talking about the importance of this issue. And when you start bringing disparate groups together who are all of a sudden one, when I talk about listening, right? They agree there's a same problem. When you agree on the same problem, that's when you really start listening to what are the solutions. And I think that we do have enough disparate groups now going, okay, let's stop pointing fingers. Stop pointing fingers. We have always been a welcoming nation. We had major workforce shortages, and we want to make sure we continue to be a welcoming nation. A nation that leads by the power of our example, not just the example of our power. And I think when that happens, you're going to see some movement. So this is one, I'm not going to say it'll happen in this Congress, but I do think it is percolating. I think you have enough different people looking at it that I think solutions are coming forward. Yeah.
Let's thank our second way to crack that bottle and
I was just going to take it.
So we've got a couple of things for you, Congressman. First of all, we have made a contribution to our West Louisville Housing Initiative in your honor for being here today. And this, just to remind everybody in the room, this is for the 9 named neighborhoods where we're helping build generational wealth. And this is important. And we're glad to be able to do this for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Prizes keep on coming. Everybody's going, why do you have all that bling on? Well, I think you remember when you came here with earlier this year that somebody was going to become a Rotary member. And so you are an honorary Rotarian today. Wrong pen. Got the right pen? Maybe? Who knows? I have tremors, and they've gone away. This is unbelievable. Oh, you get the president's pen. I got a new president. I could do this in a minute. And
I've already seen what they say about you. I'll take the other one.
That is not going to work.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys very much.
Now we're going to have a little bit of fun. Okay, so it's time for door prizes. And Robert, and I just went blank, I'm just getting this age.
Chatham.
Robert Chatham, our former Rotarian, brought this very hard to get bottle of Weller, and the Congressman and I want to split it, but that won't work. So if you would draw a name, a Rotary out of that, we're giving away this right now.
If you don't know how special this is, I actually lived next door to Rob for about 6 years before I moved to California. I never once got invited over for this. So he does not share as he should, apparently. All right.
They don't have names, it's just numbers.
All right, there we go. 242 1497.
97, going once.
Oh my God. No. Wait. Okay, you're still the president.
So
For a minute.
President, would you bestow upon me as the last Vice President
Of
the
Rotary.
power and authority invested in me to present this gift to the best darn Congress? We did not set that
What do you mean we did not set that up? I hope nobody saw our, we need to shred it. So thank you very much for doing it. Thank you for being here. Folks, if you have some more questions for him, I'm sure he might stick around. Now we're going to do a little transitioning. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Forgot to say just a couple of things. I want to say it to everybody too, but just for our new Rotary member. So Whitney Austin is a member of our club, and we are tackling part of the problem of gun violence here in Louisville with another subcommittee of the same Community Impact Committee that did our West Louisville Housing Initiative. And Fred Cowan and Gene West are heading up that initiative for us. It's really important, as you said. So thank you, I want you to know about that. One of Walt's last WWWs, the ways out through the door. Why does no one use it? It really is. It's Confucius. I didn't. All right. It has been an honor for me to serve as your president. Y'all pray for me for a second. My last, so I really got nothing to say other than you've seen what's gone on all year, and we've had such a good time here, and I can't tell you, nobody should be able to have the kind of good time that I have every week. It's been fun, and every one of you have made a difference. And our club is thriving because of you all. And I don't need to go into that because we know what the club is doing. And I just get up here to be the puppet. I don't know if that's right, but and I knew I should have written that down. So, my last Walt's words of wisdom. This is Teddy Roosevelt said this in 1919 at Sorbonne, and they were having trouble back then about same kind of stuff we're still having today. So I think these words fit, and it is one of my favorites. And what I want to say to you is that we are all in the arena. This is for you. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best, in the end, knows the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. There you go. That's it from Walt. More business. It's our job to get out on time, and we're going to do that. So before I welcome Kevin Lynch, our incoming president, to the podium, I want to share a little bit about Kevin. And I just feel inadequate even reading this. It's my pleasure to welcome our new president, Kevin Lynch, to the podium. First, a little bit about Kevin. Kevin joined our club in 2014 and has really enjoyed the camaraderie and service opportunities. He has served as chair of our International Service Committee, chair of the Investment Committee, and as a club director. He grew up near Boston, and his wife, Sunny, grew up in South Korea. They're fortunate that their 2 children and 2 grandchildren live here in Louisville. Kevin has traveled to all 50 states, wow, and 80 countries. and lived in China, South Korea, Hungary, Belgium, and England. I mean, Rotary's international, and so is our next president.
One other foreign country I lived in was Washington, D.C.
This is going to work out perfect, guys. He began his career in that foreign country on Capitol Hill and is an antitrust prosecutor with the U.S. Department of Justice. He worked as a lawyer and an executive with General Electric in the United States, Asia, and Europe. He was director of the Office for Globalization for Mayor Fisher's administration. For the last several years, he's been a financial advisor with RD Financial. He has also chaired several nonprofit boards, mostly focused on international affairs. Kevin has an undergraduate degree from Harvard, a master's degree from the London School of Economics, and a law degree from Boston College. Don't we all feel in it? I am pleased to welcome Kevin up here. Yay.
Well, you're a tough act to follow. Actually, one thing, my first act as president will be to, little discretion here. Let me first be for the offering to our outgoing president. This is one of the genuine bells, okay? Rotary Club of Louisville, Walt Trudeau, 2023 president, Imagine Rotary. Okay? You get a choice of either this gift or, if you decide not to, I'll give you a bottle of Weller. Only get one, though. Only one. But actually, congratulations on a great year as president. It's been really phenomenal. You've been making a lot of fun, you've done a lot of great things. I'll tell you, this guy does so much behind the scenes that I know about. He's one of the most active Rotarians in other service projects, those kind of things. I really appreciate it. I also appreciate the support you gave me personally to try to prepare me for this job. Obviously, you thought there was a lot of work needed to be done there. But I've developed a lot of respect. I really enjoy our friendship. One of the things I really appreciate about you, Walt, is that you have a great sense of humor. You don't take yourself too seriously. The one thing about Walt, he does take some things very seriously. One of those things he takes very seriously is the service of those self-water. Walt has been probably the most influential for our club for all the great work they've done over the years in education. He's been a big supporter, very involved in Rotary Promise Scholars for college students, for high school students who couldn't afford a college education otherwise. He's also been a huge person behind the West End School. That provides a foundation to be prepared to go to college for a lot of people. He does stuff that, he comes from education as he mentioned, but he just really helps a lot of other people get the chances they wouldn't otherwise have. That's one of his passions is education. He just cares about people, and that's how he lives that. And I want to thank you all, not only for all you've done, but for who you are, Walt.
Thank you.
For next week, I just want you to know the new, oh, thanks. You want this pin, Walt? You give it.
Hey, you're trading, okay. This isn't going on.
We don't have an extra 15 minutes, so I'll put it on later.
Thank you.
But the theme for next year, as of Friday, that's this coming year, create hope in the world. That's the Rotary International theme. It's create hope in the world. I can't imagine a better theme, more fitting for this club. The work we do and the caring and the loving spirit folks in this room have and live it out, that's a phenomenal way to have our theme for as a club, internationally. And again, we'll be here in this room next Thursday. The following after will be the University Club. But next Thursday, great opportunity to hear the new Jeff Brown, the new football coach at U of L. It's his new home, and we're going to keep him here for a while. And by the way, if you are a UK fan, you're still invited, okay? But there will be a 100% surcharge for UK fans.
Off to a bad start.
I lost half the room there. Hopefully, most of you heard that our meetings the next 2 weeks from now will be at the University Club, the Alumni Club at the University of Louisville. But any guests, there's been several of them, Please be with Craig Sherman for a brief overview of our club. It's Craig, where's Craig now?
Craig is right
There he is.
there, he's always here.
So Craig can help you understand more about what we do. And don't forget to stop by the Carriage Trade Shop as you walk out. The meeting is adjourned. See you next week. Whoa, ring the bell. Pastor